Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tastemakers podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about everything going on in the world of TV and film, and sometimes some other things. Occasionally, I'm your host, Grace. I'm your host, Grace Leeder. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me is Grace Leeder. How you doing, Grace?
Good. I'm Taran Armstrong. How you doing?
I have clearly not done enough podcasting in the last couple of weeks/months.
That's okay. It's good. A little. So I'm currently basically snowed in my apartment.
Mm.
So, such is life. Gives me a good excuse to watch a bunch of TV. So that's what I've been doing.
Yes, and me personally, I'm loving my current cadence here because I feel like there's a lot to talk about, there's some current stuff, and I've watched a lot of stuff as well
Mm.
in the downtime that I've had from the podcast. So, plenty to talk about and to catch up on. Of course, the one of the biggest things is I'll give you a preview. We've got Oscar noms, we've got big shows like The Pitt and Night of the Seven Kingdoms to talk
Mhm.
about. Industry just started a few other things. We've got other movies going on. We had the Alex Honnold Taipei Skyscraper Ascent free solo that I did tune in for. Plenty to talk about, Grace.
That feels like one that. I mean, I guess you can't really spoil it, but it seems like nothing bad happened. So I
He
think
didn't
he
die.
didn't die. So I haven't watched it yet, but at least I know nothing super catastrophic happened. The other thing I want to say, I think, the cadence moving forward, Taryn, is like you on every other week. And then in the meantime, I'll rotate in with some guests and I'll really like hone in on sort of things. I feel like I've been saying this to my friends. I was traveling a little bit with Dr. Amanda. I was in Philadelphia. So I go, I could talk about that. I saw the Taskmaster live show. It's like such a treat. Really like sort of like be able to like fully spoil. We every once in a while do that. We're like at the end of the pod, we'll spoil something. The plan is to like pick some things to follow and probably come at you maybe even every week with that sort of like bonus extra pod. So that's the plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Well, let's I would say briefly talk about Oscar noms. I've got the list up here. I don't think that we need to go through all of them, or even really most of them, because there's not a lot that's different from the Golden Globes, I think is the headline story here. The main thing for me, Best Picture. Again, most of the same movies that we've heard about: F1, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, Sinners, The Secret Agent, Bugonia, and then Train Dreams, which I had vaguely heard about, but I hadn't really seen buzzy in terms of Best Picture nom. I was surprised to see it here, but I did actually watch it, so we'll talk about that maybe a little bit.
Yeah, the Oscar thing, I think very much in line with stuff that happened at the Golden Globes in terms of what
Yeah.
got nominated and what is sort of winning. I think the only sort of thing that sort of changed in the race is the idea that Sinners walked away with the most nominations
Yes.
ever, which I know some people talk about. Well, they added a casting nomination. Sinners still broke the record by an additional one. So, like, it's not like the casting one is the one that they got. They actually ended up like, it's fine. And also, like, all the time there used to be all sorts of different awards and categories. So like really the most nominations, I think what's happening now is we just get this sort of like influx of, it does feel like to a degree, the people who vote on these things watch a lot of the same things, but even that's probably not really true because at the Oscars for different categories, it's all the people who are part of that. Like if you like, it's not like everybody votes for costuming. It is people who work in costuming vote for costuming nominations. And then when the actual voting happens, then everybody votes on everything. So I don't think that that's necessary. It does feel like we get like this like synthesis of like, oh, these are the things we're watching, which I think has more to do with the fact that things are more readily available to watch. And so people have seen more things. And then there sort of ends up being a conversation like, oh my God, Sinners is amazing. Let's vote for Sinners for all of these different things.
I think like in this, I think most people like understand this already, so it's not exactly like new analysis. But I think that also when a movie is really good,
Yeah,
a lot of the components of it are also really good, and then on
correct.
top of that, I think the components of it are perceived to be even better when the whole package is really good. So like,
Yeah.
You're more likely to get an acting nod if the editing was really good and the writing was really good and the directing was really good and
Yeah.
it was a really good
Yeah.
movie. And then
Yeah.
if all of those things are true, then you're probably also getting those nods and you're probably also getting the best picture nod and so on, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it really just kind of like snowballs from there. It's
Yeah.
harder to like have like a single really standout thing. It's like when you're watching a bad movie, you don't often go like, that was a really bad movie. Except for this one thing that was actually maybe the best thing of that thing in this year.
Yeah, there's a thing. I think that's kind of what happened to like Wicked for Good in a sense, where it like really ended up being. I think it's shut out. Didn't get nominated for. It must have got nominated for Down the Line stuff. I can maybe that's not even true, but like I think that like there's a world where you could say like probably Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande like to some degree could have been nominated and they weren't nominated. So
Yeah.
I think what you're
I don't
saying
see
is
anything here.
yeah, I don't think so. So the one thing about like the race is it did feel like this was one battle after another is like firmly in the lead with like the second option sort of being Hamnet, but I think the amount of which is partially because of the Golden Globes, the way that one battle after another won comedy, very silly, it's fine. And then Hamnet won best drama. So like you could have that race, but now it feels like, well, is the upside to one battle after another, could it be Sinners? Even though I still think one battle after another feels like the sure thing. Some people are wondering whether could Sinners win that, but then like Paul Thomas Anderson just wins director. I've actually argued I could see the opposite, where like I know they probably really want to give Paul Thomas Anderson the best director, but I feel like Ryan Coogler would be very deserving of best director. So it does feel like Sinners sort of like launched itself up a little bit in terms
Yeah.
of having some momentum maybe heading into
It
the
gives it, I
Oscars.
would say, a little more credibility for a win like Best Picture, where like it is a bit more genre than a Best Picture would usually go for, which I think was hurting it. But like getting this many nods, I think does it gives it something. I mean, it's
Yeah.
I think like Lord of the Rings also got tons of nods, and
Yeah.
obviously was never a contender for Best Picture, but like,
Yeah.
um, it's still something. Whereas
I,
before it was,
yeah. I think F1 was a little bit of a surprise. I think basically sneaking into the 10th spot. I think that there was a lot of debate about like kind of 8, 9, 10 in terms of what I think ends up being sort of F1, The Secret Agent, and Begonia all sort of feel like maybe even Frankenstein you could slot in there like a little bit surprising. This is one I've been hearing that like this is the year where like maybe they, with 5 nominees for Best Picture feel like it's like super strong, and is it a little bit weaker? I don't know. I kind of think F1's really fun, and I am not mad. Good to get some dad movie representation in the in the Best Picture nod.
Yeah. I did see F1 and I will say for what it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like it did not have a lot of weaknesses. Whereas normally like I would say the writing in particular, some of the dialogue would be pretty weak.
No,
I don't
yeah.
think that was really true. I think the character work and the dialogue was pretty good, and obviously then the rest of the movie was also just pretty good.
And what people are failing to mention is that the cars go so fast.
They do go really
They go
fast.
so fast.
I will say I was pretty surprised to not see any no other choice
Yeah.
nominations here.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I mean, it didn't really come out until Christmas, so maybe. But like, I feel like Marty Supreme didn't come out till Christmas either. But Marty Supreme obviously has a bigger American audience built in. Yeah, that definitely feels. I mean, No Other Choice is so good. I think it's like so good, and to not even get international feature nom is
It's very good. I watched
very
it.
good.
Lee Byung-hun is incredible in
Yeah.
this role.
Yeah.
In fact, I think when I looked up the movie after I watched it, just a brief summary of what the movie is about a guy who is like hunting down other job applicants for a job he wants.
So
And
timely. It's so like
it's
basically
very, I mean, it's a South Korean movie about capitalism. Like it's
right.
pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
And a lot of people compare it to Parasite, and I would say it's a little sillier than
Agreed.
Parasite, but not in a bad way. It's
Agreed.
very, very like intentional and very fun to watch. But one of my favorite things that I saw immediately was like a top comment on maybe like Reddit was like a picture of Timothy Chalamet and like uh, you know whoever,
Leo?
like all
No.
the other acting
Yeah.
people, like Lee Byung-hun.
Oh, and
Even
he's
what
hunting
to
them.
do.
Yes, 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 yes. Perfect. Great. Yeah, him
Take
and
him down, get the
yeah.
best actor nod. But
He
yeah, I
has
was
no other choice.
surprised. Not even a
If you eliminate all the other noms, yeah.
yeah, not even a best like foreign film
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
nod is pretty wild. It's not the first time though that this has happened
Yeah.
to Park Chan-wook. where The Handmaiden was not submitted, I believe, by his country. And so it was,
Stupidest rule that you only have one. I mean, I get why
yeah.
it was enacted, but also the fact that the governments of the country choose which films can be recognized in that for that category is also silly. But yeah.
Mhm. I haven't heard that that happened again though this time, that it was like a failure of being nominated.
Do you think
So it,
wasn't he the one who was involved where he? Am I mixing? Who wrote the Sympathize? Is this a
that
different?
yes, that is so he Park Chan-wook got in a little bit of hot water for he was accused of continuing to write during the writer's strike for The Sympathizer. Um
So
and I believe he was actually maybe,
removed from
did he end
the
up getting kicked out
yeah.
of the Writers Guild?
A jury of WGA members determined that the violations were unintentional and stemmed from a misunderstanding of the rules. He claims the jury. Let me see. Um, I think he was expelled still. Um, they were voted to expel the duo for unspecified reasons. So I feel like there could be potentially, although that sounds like some like weird high level decision making. The WGA led to him being expelled, but also like I wonder whether there's any like this is full conspiracy theorist on my part that like
Mhm.
that's the reason he wouldn't get votes.
I mean, even
But
just like if that dulls the shine just a little bit, that could be enough. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I do think it's a snub. The other big snub for me that I think has been talked about endlessly is Nothing for Sorry Baby, which I think at the very least should have gotten an original screenplay nod for Eva Victor. But Nothing for Sorry Baby, which is a movie I very much like. And think is quite tremendous, but doesn't get any love. Julia Roberts shouted out Eva Victor at the Golden Globes, telling everyone to go watch it. And even that,
Mm.
I've said this, that I do think part of what happened is like, if you look at the A24 slate, this is an A24 movie. There's like The Smashing Machine and Materialists and like all of these movies that I think you could have seen in other years, like get nominated for Oscars that like didn't end up being nominated for Oscars. So Sorry Baby ends up being sort of the surprise hit, but A24 clearly didn't like put enough sort of stock into campaigning for it. And I do think campaigning is like actually really important
Mhm.
during Oscar season. Will become more important now that like people have been nominated. But yeah, I love Sorry Baby. Highly recommend people go check it out if you haven't caught it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll just queue up. I have now watched Sentimental Value and Train Dreams. I loved them both.
Yes.
Maybe we'll talk a little bit more later in the podcast about those. But definitely some movie talk that we've got to do.
I have
But
about 6 movies before I can complete the Oscars gauntlet, which doesn't include any of the shorts, which typically a theater near me does
yeah,
play them all. If anybody's interested in doing that with me, and let me know, reach out to me because I
I
love
feel
doing
like
the Oscars gauntlet.
I'm in a decent place at this point. I'm only a few
I,
like movies like If I Had Legs I'd Kick You
yeah,
are brutal, and then like the documentaries are always brutal, but
yeah.
like
5 of my movies that I haven't seen are no, I think 4 of them are the docs. I've seen one of
yeah.
them. Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I'm like I'm feeling pretty decent actually. And again, I'm very happy because Train Dreams came out of nowhere. I just like threw it on,
So good.
quite honestly, not expecting to like it. Because I was like, this is going to be one of those like it's nominated because it's
Mhm.
pretty, but it's
It's
going to
one
be really boring. And
annoyingly, it's like a
then
beautiful Netflix movie. Everyone watches it, but whatever,
yeah,
watch it where you
yeah.
watch it. Mhm.
I did find myself wishing I were watching it in the theater, I will
That's
say.
okay. That's okay.
Anyway, we've got some shows. We've got some shows. The Pit is back, and it's like it never left.
Yeah, how are you feeling about I feel like the feeling is a little bit like, oh, we slowed down. Which having been somebody who did watch a lot of the end of season 1, my mom was watching it for the first time, so I watched a bunch of episodes with her over the holidays. There's a very clear like, we're not in hour 10 of our ER
Mhm.
shit. We're like very much at the first hour, and so there's a slow rolling of it. I still love it. It was so fun to just see all these new characters, or the characters that we love. There are some
Mhm.
new characters. There's one character that I think everybody universally hates, and I'm waiting for the week in which we all like figure out the reason why. Actually, no, she's also tremendous,
Yeah.
and we'll love her. But it's been very fun so far, I think.
I think it's so necessary to slow back down. I think, in fact, that ER is a great example of a
Mm.
show that struggled to pull back, and over its 15 season run, got to a place where it just couldn't top itself, and so it just kept trying to over and over and over.
Mhm.
And I think that I haven't heard bad things about season 2 of The Pit, but I do
Neither.
think that like certainly there is a hype machine that developed over the course of the year for the Pit. It's won all of the awards. Everyone's talking really well about it, and it came out of nowhere. I
Yeah.
think for a lot of people, went in with zero expectations, watched it, maybe binged it, and are now dealing with like the weight of those expectations and the slow roll of one episode per week, which I do think is, in my opinion, the best way to watch it. But that's just because of the way that I'm watching it. But like, I could see why people are like, this isn't blowing my brains out right now.
Hey, that
But
happens in the last episode.
exactly. But man, I think it's perfect. I think it's exactly what it
Uh-huh.
needs to be. I think that it just it's a show, and I mention this all the time when season 1 was airing. It's a show that makes me look forward to Thursday nights, because it's just like, I'm gonna watch The Pit. My brain is going to not be able to focus on anything else in the world
Mhm.
except for this hospital space, this ER, and these characters. And I'm just gonna get lost in it, and then it's gonna end suddenly, and I'm gonna be like, oh, and I'm gonna wait for the next week.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's so fun. Yeah, The Pit is like that. That's what my Thursday night is for, is to watch The Pit even more than The Traders, which there was
Yeah.
a reason why I think all of us a few weeks ago were like, let's watch that. And then Rebecca was
Yeah.
like, oh, at least I can watch The Pit first now, you know? But it's so good. I think what is really interesting to me about this season so far is the way in which I think you're right that people sort of started to find The Pit. And actually, I recalled an interview I did with Deechin Lockman, who plays Gemma in Severance, and I was chatting with her when I was interviewing her, and she was kind of like, it's so strange that like this like phenomena of the show was not how we experienced season 1 of the show,
Yeah.
because people found it over the course of season. It feels like season 1 of Severance was a phenomenon, but it actually took time for except for the iteration of post show recaps, which is like the boots on the ground first people watching Severance. Um, it started to slowly become a thing where now when season 2 is coming back, they were so nervous because like people didn't watch the show like this in season 1, and
Mhm.
so I feel that they must be feeling that, and that must have been a thought that they were having about going back to the show. I think the slow rolling of this the just like easing into it has been so good. On the other hand, I do think that like they are doing a very interesting thing where I think a lot of people, even me, I have this like memory of like Dr. Robbie is a perfect human who can do no wrong, who's like
Yeah.
in season 1 was struggling. He was like struggling with mental health. What an admirable like the job he has, and but like let's get him through it. And season 2 is being like, what if there are things that he says that you maybe don't love that he is saying or doing? And I think that is really interesting and been really fun for me watching season 2 of The Pit so far.
I agree so much because I think that's another thing they're doing really well. This is a show that has developed like fan bases for characters. Like we
Yeah,
love certain characters. We love Mel King.
yeah,
We love Dr. Robbie. And a lot of shows that would cripple them, that would paralyze them. They would start flanderizing those characters. They would
mhm,
start like being too self-indulgent. And this show is not afraid to be like, no, these are still real people. That's why you like them, and we are not going to shy away from that. And so I'm just really pleased that it's continuing to do what it should be doing. I think the fact that it came back so soon is helping alleviate the weight of expectations because we're not waiting 4 years for the next season like we did with Severance. So
yeah.
very happy it's on. Not much more to say about it.
Most woke show on TV, I think. Gotta say, so woke this show. hmm
Oh boy.
hmm In a good way. I love it.
All right. What about a Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which started last week? I actually have not watched last night's episode because I watched Train Dreams instead of Night of the Seven Kingdoms last night.
That's okay.
But I did watch the first episode and I thought it was great. I
Do you
loved it. I
have
thought it was very fun.
the same complaint? I feel like one thing that everyone's like, I wish it wasn't like giant poop scene in the first 5 minutes of the show, but that's other than that. And then I keep saying like I get it, like it was like a full like we are setting the tone of this show, which is like it is not as serious as the previous iteration of a Game of Thrones spinoff has been, which is House of the Dragon. I really like it. I've seen the whole thing. I've seen all 6 episodes, so I'm a little biased, but I had the thing of like, ooh, this could be like a little too silly for me. But I do think they like steer the ship in the right direction. I think this is like, it's so fun, I think, to narrow in on something which is essentially like, I think I said this like a year ago ish, where you're like talking about the Pit. There's some other stuff we were enjoying at the time. It was like one of the, it's like, these are the best, like it was like golden age of television again. And I made this thing. I was like, I feel like what we get right now, which has been really good, is like something old, but a new version of it. And so like the Pit is like, it is a medical drama. We've seen ER was obviously tremendously successful. But then what if it's like, 24ified, and it's like, so it's a new take on this thing. And I feel like this is like, yeah, the like lone wolf and cub thing of like in a Game of Thrones world is a perfect place to be like, yeah, this is old and also new again.
Yeah, like this is certainly not a new concept. Like, as you said, like Wolf and Cub, like the Mandalorian. It was a shot
Last
up,
of
but like
Us, even season 1 is that?
yeah, but like the thing about like, but especially like within an established universe,
Right.
we are trying to go smaller scale. And what happened with the Mandalorian is that it very quickly was like, no, this is
The
the
Skywalkers are here.
And it completely lost, I think, the momentum that it had
100%.
when it started doing that. Even though they were hype moments and people talked about them, then like there's something that you lose. And I think that there's a dedication to being small scale in this show and these stories that I think will serve them well. And I think that placing them in the broader context of an established universe that people do love just gives it a little extra flavor that's really nice. This is something that fantasy books do really well. My favorite series, The Realm of the Elderlings. Robin Hobb has a number of short stories that she's written within that universe, and some of them are better than others, but like they're all within this same shared world that she's created, and so this is a little bit of lore for the history of this thing, or like it's just cool to fill in those gaps and to exist in that existing place, which is funny to say because fantasy is all about creating new places.
Yeah.
But I really like that. The biggest thing for me about this show is that it is just so short.
Every episodes are getting shorter. They're like 35 minutes on average.
Exactly, which is part of its charm. But also, I'm not sure that, like, I'm not sure how I want to approach it. Do I want to watch it all at once and just save it? Or do I want to try to tune in every week like I would The Pit? I'm worried that if I try to tune in every week, it's almost a little too bite-sized for me. But we'll see. I'm going to watch it tonight, the second episode, and then maybe get a better sense of how I'm personally feeling. But it's either way, it's just a really good time. I just enjoyed that first episode, and I have a lot of faith that I'm going to continue to enjoy the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the spoiler, people are gonna be so mad when Luke Skywalker shows up in a night. Episode 5, just be warned.
Luke Skywalker.
No, I do feel like it's hard for me to say because I did binge watch it, mostly because I was doing it for work. Yeah. I do feel like it worked exceptionally well as a binge. I believe I think you'll be okay at saying this. My friend Josh Wigler also said he was like, yep, watched it in a full day, watched it just in like one night. It does feel kind of movie-esque, I think. I do think if okay, so first of all, Rich, DM Philly and I are recapping every episode of the show, all 6 over on his podcast, Screen and Page. So we're already having, so everyone should watch it week to week so that they can listen to Rich and I. But also, if you weren't going to do that, I do think you probably could wait. I do think it's like, I would not begrudge anybody, mostly because I feel like this show is really good and it is quite fun. And things happen in the show. Like it's not like nothing. It's a season of a show, and also not so much. Like it's not so much that like you're gonna get spoiled on not watching. I think we're like not in that era of TV that much anyway. So I think people are fine. But it's not like because it's like we are kind of we're in the same world, but you can't be spoiled. I think in the way that people might have. We're like if you missed an episode of Game of Thrones when Game of Thrones was airing, like you didn't want to be spoiled. It doesn't feel like that. That makes it feel like I'm saying like things don't happen. It still is. And actually the other thing too, I want to say about this world is I do think what's fun is I do think you can enjoy the show if you're not a huge Game of Thrones fan. And then if you are, there is like, it's not like it's disconnected from the world at
Yeah.
all in terms of like, it is a small story. And also is involving people who, like, if you watch Game of Thrones, they mention people in the show because
Mhm.
like it's the history of Westeros, you know? So I'm really enjoying it. I really liked it. I did love binging it. I couldn't fault someone for waiting until 6 episodes are out and watching them all at once.
Yeah. Good stuff. Industry started its fourth season very recently, which inspired me to go, oh, right, I was watching that at one point. I never finished season one. I wasn't a huge fan,
Mhm.
but I was like, I kept hearing that it was very good. And
Mhm.
especially the later seasons were very good, and that it also changes a lot over the course of the show. And so I just kind of had it on the background. I finished watching season one, thought it was okay.
Yeah.
I got through season two. I thought it was mostly okay. Um, and again, I was mostly just in the background. I put on season three, kind of like not. I was like, I think this is when Jon Snow shows up,
Yes.
and not really at that point expecting much. But for me, it was an incredibly fast because I was watching straight from season two to season three.
Yes. A
And I
stark
couldn't even
difference.
necessarily pinpoint exactly what it is, but there's a massive quality shift for me. I instantly was more interested in the characters and what
Mhm.
was happening. And it wasn't just that like Jon Snow showed up. It was like these characters that I was pretty ambivalent toward previously, where all of a sudden I was like, oh, I do I care about you now all of a sudden? Like what's
Yeah.
happening? And so I'm very optimistic. I am about halfway through season three right now,
Yeah.
hoping to catch up to season four, but I've heard great things about season four so far.
Yeah, so Industry's a show I very much like. I like it a lot. I think that as I was talking with people about watching the show, and my friend Dr. Amanda is a great example of this, where I was trying to like give the sales pitch. And so this is a show that Josh Wigler is a big fan of. I podcasted about season 3 with Josh and Emily Fox. Jess Sterling watched the show as well. I feel like people kept saying, "Oh, it's Succession meets Euphoria," which like is not totally untrue, but I think also does a tremendous disservice to industry because it's not quite like it's not quite Euphoria, and it's also not as good as Succession. I love Succession.
Yeah.
And the thing about Succession is that Succession is one of the most brilliantly written shows from one of the most brilliant writers, I think Jesse Armstrong. And I think that industry Succession in some ways feels like culmination of work. Not that I don't think Jesse Armstrong could go and create something as well, but it's sort of like it's like just a masterful piece of television. And Industry is a show that Mickey Down and Conrad K, co-creators of the show, are sort of like first time showrunners figuring out what
Mhm.
works and doesn't work and are
Yeah.
totally willing to be like, no, no, not that. We don't actually care about that anymore because this is the interesting, but this is actually the way in which like we are going to tell this interesting story. This is what we're interested in. I think season obviously one of them, I think it's Mickey Down, comes from like a like this background. They worked in this industry. They might have both worked in this industry. I feel like season 3 you start to get into like we're actually in like British class structures in a way that I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
this is fascinating. This is so interesting, and this was never a thing we were thinking about in season 1. And so I feel like they've just sort of like this is not the combination of these two guys like telling the story they always wanted to tell. This is them kind of growing and evolving as
Figuring it
storytellers,
out. Yeah.
figuring it out as they go in a way that I really, really like. I've only watched the first episode of season 4 so far. I did, I did like it. I didn't love it in a way that I kind of like was like, oh, I love season 3. I'm going to come back to it. And I was a little like, oh yeah, I have to like recalibrate myself to the world of industry a little bit, which can be a little like, I mean, if you look at the poster that's up, like, it does feel a little like we're young kids doing drugs, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I forgot, like I gotta go there, but I do like it. I like it a
I
lot.
think that's a great description of how I felt about like the first two seasons, where it really does. It feels like it is pulling from a bunch of different influences, but it's not really able to capture what makes those influences great, for me at least. And it does feel like just trying to figure it out. And even I mean, season three still feels that way, but
Mhm.
it's definitely more confident with what it is, and it feels like it's more willing to sort of forge its own. path and sort of method of getting to where it wants to be, which I think is part of why I'm really enjoying it. Or maybe also they're pulling from other inspiration. I'm getting a little bit of like um, almost leftovers vibes from season 3,
Yeah,
the way
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
they're focusing their efforts. But yeah, it's an interesting show. It's not one I think I can readily recommend given the commitment to get to what I deem to be the better stuff. If you don't like the first episode or two, there's a lot of that to get through. But it is an interesting show. It is one of the few that is doing what it's doing at this moment. And so I can see why, especially a lot of like I think television critics really like it because it is offering something that feels kind of unique.
It's also a show that I think it can be extremely smart and like and like whatever. And there's so much time where I'm like, I actually don't really understand although I did make it an effort to be the person on the podcast in season 3 to be like, let me come in and like explain actually what's happening behind this like business acquisition merger, the selling of stocks.
I
Whatever. So I
like when
did
they
feel like
go numbers up, numbers down.
numbers up, numbers down. They
That's
show
when it
it on
gets
the
easy.
screen, like the chart, and they're like, "Oh
Is
no,
it
the numbers
green
are
or
going
is it
up."
red?
100%. Season 4 currently has like a 96% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. I feel like what this show is a show for me that I'm like I vibe with and I'm liking, and every once in a while they like do something like, "Whoa, that was a big swing." I don't know if I like it, but
Yeah,
you did it, and it wasn't boring. So that's my feeling on industry.
yeah. All right. Any other shows, major shows to talk about here?
Ponies debuted on Peacock. This is a show I saw a lot of people. This is a PON, yeah, IES. This is an Amelia Clark show about two women whose husbands are CIA operatives who die in Russia, and so these two women become the CIA operatives themselves. Vic Michaelis from the Dropout World is in the show. I interviewed them about the show. I feel I wanted to like this more than I did, and it's funny because I'm gonna say that it sometimes felt a little too silly for me, but it's also a show where they definitely are like trying to track down a serial killer who's killing like women. So like it's not always silly, but there's like a tone thing that I think was not always vibing with me. I do feel like I would like to go back and like watch through the end just to give it its fair shot because I do feel like critics really liked the show, and I do think Amelia Clark is good, and I feel like she hasn't really been able to like figure it out post Game of Thrones. Like I feel like she's like nothing has really been able to utilize her in the same way that
Mhm.
obviously Game of Thrones did. So yeah, and very fun to watch Vic Michaels in fully like a comedy role on this show. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been curious about this one. Like I keep going back and forth about whether I want to give it a shot. I like to see like 8 episodes, and I'm like, oh, that seems like a large commitment for a show that might not have the story for that many episodes because I've had so many of these like spy thrillers that are just like they really stretch it out. But I am curious. I just keep coming back to it. Maybe because of Amelia Clark, but
Well,
yeah, I
it
don't know.
also it dropped all 8 episodes on one day, which I think is always a little tough. And then
Yeah.
also they held all of the embargo for the reviews were all the day before the show launch, which that felt really bad. And then it has like great reviews. So I don't like I had this, I think maybe I had this notion in my head of like it's and I didn't vibe with it like as much as other people I'm seeing are,
Mm.
but people do seem to like it. So
Well, we did get a Netflix live event.
mm,
I wonder if this is on IMDb. Skyscraper. Yeah, there it is. Skyscraper Live is the official title. Alex Honnold, Free Solos, Taipei 101, a skyscraper. And I'd been hearing a lot about this. I hadn't realized that they were going to do it live. I thought they were just going to. I was like loosely because I'm very aware of Alex Honnold. I'm a climber myself, and I've actually seen him in a bunch of like YouTube videos. He collaborates with a lot of climber creators that I follow. And he's also done commentary for World Cups, and he's actually a very good commentator
mm,
because he just kind of doesn't care
mm,
about like what he says. And so I was loosely aware of this, and I was like, yeah, I'll look into that at some point. And then I found out it was going to be live, and I was like, oh, that's wow, okay. That's wild.
Yeah, I heard this was
And
happening. I didn't realize it. Like, honestly, when you were like, "Oh yeah," and I think I saw it, and it was like, "Yeah, it happened." I was like, "Oh, well,
yeah,
all right."
it was delayed a day because of weather.
Right.
But they put it together, and the big thing that everyone was talking about was like, oh well, it's on a 10-second delay
Yeah.
in case he falls. And that was probably the worst part because there were multiple times during the event when Netflix like glitched.
Oh, yeah, bad for the anxiety, I
And so
bet.
it was like, what? Okay, okay. um, of course, this is what he does, and he was very confident in his ability to do it, and it's actually a lot easier than like El Capitan, the one he did free solo.
Yeah.
Um, and so he was never in like I would say a significant amount of danger, although it is still very dangerous. Honestly, the biggest thing for me about this event, because I did enjoy it, was how terribly produced it was by Netflix, in my
Mm.
opinion. The commentary was terrible. It was like uh Seth Rollins,
Oh, I saw that it was Colby a little bit. I was like, "Why does that name sound so familiar?"
the
The
wrestler,
professional wrestler. Yeah, he's injured right now, so he's just doing this.
some random other host, and then one climber friend of Alex were the
And
three
and
main people.
and Seth Rollins is doing it because the Raw the WWE is on Netflix now. That's what. So that's annoying that they.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so. And then like Mark Rober was there as like a sideline commentator. And it was just like none of them knew what they were talking about to any
No.
significant degree. Most of the input from the commentators were like, wow, that's scary. Or worse, just talking to talk to fill space. And they kept talking over Alex so often.
Oh, because he
Or
talks
like
out loud while he's climbing?
basically like he would occasionally talk during the climb. He got to the top and was like talking, and they were talking over him doing their commentary
Oh
stuff.
my god, that's so
And it was
embarrassing.
so annoying. And they kept like cutting to like other, like, here's a pre shot segment with like the host. She's going to do like, this is what it's like to watch a regular person in the big screen while he's in a little bubble climbing the skyscraper.
Ugh.
And it's just like, what are we doing?
That is yeah, I do feel like there's a thing where when you watch enough, like, sometimes, like, amateur I'm sure you have that with, like, climbing stuff where it's, like, because
Yep.
it's not like people who have, are on, like, ESPN for Sunday Night Football or whatever, like, it's not these people do this, like, commentary on this stuff all the time, so you hear some, like, truly bad commentary.
I
That's
when I
unfortunate.
watched the Olympics
Yeah.
in Paris, I had to VPN into, I think, maybe the UK version of the commentary in order to get like the actual guy that does the commentary for World Cups.
Yeah. This is it's interesting to me because I both feel like I am compelled by it, and I feel like the other thing of it that I feel like that they're trying to like fix the problem for me is that like I think it feels like because it's a building that most of the time it would be like a lot of the same thing happening, and so the thing of it like
Which
both
is
being
true.
live is like both the appeal of it and also what would then be challenging about creating a broadcast of it. So yeah, it's unfortunate that it seems like they couldn't really like you think somebody's got to be able to figure that out, but
I just yeah, and I yeah, I'm not saying that like they needed to just play it silent of him climbing the building
sure.
the whole time. There's especially a section in the middle where it is just a lot of repetitive things, but I think that they needed to like rehearse what the cadence needs to be, when they need to stop and allow you to watch the tense moments, like when to make, like, just make sure you're listening. Anytime Alex talks, stop. I don't care if you just got asked a
Yeah.
question or if you're in the
Mhm.
middle of saying something, just let us hear him, because that is what we're here
Th-
to watch.
There's a thing I was I've done a wrestling commentary for a wrestling show, and one of the things that was like so interesting to me in terms of a tip someone gave me was like I'm used to podcasting, so podcasting is all about filling. Like dead air is bad, you know. And he's like this guy Stan, my friend. He actually he is the tagalog commentator for WWE. Like he does the international broadcasts, and he was like wrestling is still a visual art form, and so you don't need to talk all the time because sometimes the thing that's happening is the thing that you're watching,
Yeah.
and that is true of this as well, where it's like you're still watching a thing. You don't constantly need to be talking. So it's too bad that they they didn't figure that out. But it is very cool that he did it. And I would love for Netflix to do way more weird, like do weird sports stuff. Like I'm like live event stuff. I'm definitely
Yeah.
into that.
It's
Yeah.
wild, like the amount of random people that I've talked to in the last like week or so, who are like, "Did you see the Alex Honnold thing?" Or like, "Are you like," because they either know I'm a climber or they just like randomly bring it up, like, "Oh, did you see who's gonna like climb the skyscraper?" And I've got people like texting me during it, like, "Are you watching this? Oh my god!"
That's cool.
It's compelling stuff, and there's obviously a lot of debate around free soloing in general,
Yes.
um I think it was a very interesting event. It was my first Netflix live event. I could not get it working on my TV. I had to open it in a browser.
That's annoying.
um yeah, interesting.
Hmm.
um okay, movies.
Yeah, let's talk some movies.
Well, I guess there's movies and just general catch up, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of shows that I've watched. Since let me actually not start with a movie. Let me start with Task, which I finally finished.
Yes.
Um, and instantly like competing with The Pit for my favorite show of
Oh wow.
2025.
Okay, great.
Like, I really loved Task. I thought it was fantastic.
I think the show is, and I'm like so high on particularly oh, so embarrassing, I can't remember his name, Tom Pelphrey, who I
Yeah.
just think is so good in the show, and I'm a big fan of Emilia Clarke, and I think Ruffalo is great too, but I think Ruffalo's kind of like he is Ruffalo. Like I kind of knew what I was getting from him, whereas I was really blown away by the rest. There's also this point in the show where I kind of like, and I said this to the creator Brett Inglesby, I was like, I feel like I was like, you gave me too many episodes, because like by the time I get to episode 5, so much is happening in that show.
Yeah.
The point where I was like, I don't think you have enough left, and then I do think they like land the plane pretty well on Task. So yeah, I think just a tremendous show that I feel like isn't really getting a ton of love.
Yeah, which is wild because I think that it's so suited to get a lot of love, but it was a crowded year for sure, and maybe it's a little bit specific. But I'm personally so drawn to these kinds of stories. Even just the poster of it, you can see it's like, here's the FBI guy and here's the criminal, and it's like we're getting both perspectives, and I just love that format in general when it's done really interestingly, like really well. And I thought this was so good. It's a story about, like, FBI agents and a task force and crimes and gangs and whatever, but it's so human. It's so much more just about the humans involved, and that's why I loved it so much. I thought it was very, very good. So I love Task.
Yeah, the character
Um,
work on both Ruffalo's character and Pelfrey's character is extremely good. And then I believe Winslet has said that Mayor of Easttown season 2 is coming, probably
oh,
not soon. I think they'll film in 20, like they won't film this year, so they'll film next year. Probably won't be out till 28, but she's basically confirmed that that's happening. So
yeah, and I'm somebody who enjoyed Mayor of Easttown, but maybe thought like I didn't love it as much as some other people did.
mhm.
But I did think it was very good and grounded and had a lot of great character work. I think mostly like it's interesting because the Mayor of Easttown is such a whodunit,
Is not
and
a
I think
whodunit. Yeah.
my issue is that like I not that I'd like solved it too early, but like it wasn't there've been too many versions of that I'd seen already.
Mhm.
Um, Task is not there's some amount of whodunit to it, but like you kind of it's not that hard to
It's also
figure
not,
out.
yeah, I also feel like that's not it's not so much the main
It's not the
point. Like,
primary
there's
component of it.
there is a fun, like, "Oh my god, like, who is this
Yeah.
yeah, but it's not the central thing.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
there is mystery. Like there's nothing super surprising in Task.
Well the way that I said this to Inglesby, and then he sort of was like, "That's it," which, as I said, I feel like what's so compelling about the show is to have 2 guys who you basically both want them to be able to
Yes.
accomplish the thing that they wanna do, and those are fundamentally opposed. Like,
Yeah.
Pelfrey can't get away with the thing if Ruffalo catches him, you know? And so
Yeah.
that's what is so like, which one of those outcomes will be the thing that happens, which is so compelling.
Yeah. Okay, I mentioned already I watched No Other Choice. I loved it. I thought it was
Mhm.
phenomenal.
Yep.
Definitely would recommend.
Agreed.
Let's see. I
You
did
watched.
finish Foundation season 3.
Uh-huh.
It was fine.
Yeah, people are. I feel like people who watch, I think, really like it. I feel like it's like be extremely surprised if the show gets renewed because I feel like it
It was a
has to hit
strong
no.
finale.
But it just had like no. It has like no buzz for I feel like
Yeah.
scope of that
I'm
show.
surprised given what I
But
assume the budget is that it's still going.
but Apple TV is sometimes they're like you could just keep making this. For All Mankind just announced that they're coming back. So sometimes they just are like
Huh?
they'll just let people make shows over there.
Um, The Bone Temple
Yes.
um, was, I thought, a phenomenal movie. This has been perhaps this stretch of like 3 weeks, some of the most amount of like high ratings like I'm
Amazing.
throwing out 9s and 10s like it's nobody's business. This might be the most highly concentrated period of time that I've just loved every single thing I've watched, to the point where I'm like, oh, where literally I watched Train Dreams and I was like, stop. I can't love another movie. I
Give
just
me.
watched Sentimental Value. That was supposed to be my new favorite thing.
Let's send Saren some schluck. Let's get him like some bad stuff to watch.
I thought the Bone Temple was incredible. I thought it was so fun. And it was so compelling. And I'm somebody that loved the first iteration of the 28 years later,
Mm-hmm.
period. And I think, like many people, found the very end of that movie to be like, what?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I think that this movie helps alleviate that concern
1000%.
in significant ways. And I love what these movies are doing, the ways that they're exploring. You look at like a zombie, it's like the people are the real enemies, or like whatever. We're exploring humanity through
Mm-hmm.
the concept of zombies. Like, yes, but we're also exploring the concept of humanity through the actual zombies in
Yeah.
this case.
Yeah.
And but also there's this running theme of fatherhood and masculinity throughout these movies that I think is really compelling, which makes sense coming from Alex Garland. And so I love this, and I'm so sad that it has tanked at the box office. That is not doing well.
Yeah.
And
People gotta lay off Nia DaCosta. Go see Nia DaCosta stuff, please. Let her make more stuff. I really love this. I think it's like, and actually, you know what I have to say, I am one of those people who was like, I loved 20 Years Later, and then the post credit scene happens, or like not even whatever the scene at the end. I'm like, oh, like oh no, you kind of like you dumped stuff all over my beautiful meal,
it should have been a post-credit scene, I think.
which
I
is
think that fixes a lot, to be honest.
yeah. And then the movie's kind of happening, and I'm like, okay, like I just some I think really interesting stuff that is happening, but I don't think I'm like I also think 20 Years Later took me a little bit until I feel like the first moment that I was like, oh yes, this is the like chase scene in that movie, and I was like, okay, and then I feel like from that point out, I'm like so into it, and so I feel like this movie again did the same thing where I was a little like, all right, like okay, let's see, and then you get to a point where I just think it's so compelling, and then it like the sort of climax of this film is so it is so cool and good and just
Mhm.
awesome. And I feel like in this movie, both these movies are doing both thematically rich character stuff and also just seeing cool stuff on like
Yes.
on a movie screen in a way that I think is like that's exactly what I want. Like what else could I want? So I'm very happy with this, and I am very excited for where it's good because yeah, another one. I mean, the good news is I don't even if it did terribly at the box office,
I
it doesn't
believe
really matter.
it was already put in place they were going to make the third one. It's just like, given the performance of the second one, they might
Well,
significantly scale back, or they
yeah,
might, who knows what they might do. But hopefully we can get the conclusion, because I think it is very needed, and it would be a crime against film to cut this short.
I think you and I are the only ones out here like still loving Al Scott. I feel like no, I feel like actually 20 years later has been like an interesting little bit of a reclamation because I do feel like he basically did men's civil war and warfare, and people are like, I don't know, and I was like, no, actually, here's why all of those are like men. Like I'll let people hate on the movie Men and the concept of men in general. But Civil War and Warfare, I like really love, and I think they're both interesting. And so yeah, just out
Well,
here
I think
defending
what's
Australia.
interesting about the Bone Temple is that it is scoring a lot higher with audiences.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you can even see on IMDb 6.6 for 28 Years Later, which I think is way too low personally, but it's 7.7 for the Bone Temple, which is a massive jump from one to the other. And so like there were a lot of people that like wanted 28 Years Later to be something it wasn't, were disappointed in it, who then went and watched the Bone Temple and were like, this is what I wanted. Only now nobody's watching it because very few people gave it a chance. And so I think that's a bit of a I think in many ways the bold angle of going for a trilogy in the way that they did is part of the issue because they were not giving people everything they wanted initially, in the way that that they could have if it were like, hey, this is a single movie and then we can do a sequel. But
Yeah.
but listen, in terms of that's the box office strategy. I love what they've done artistically here.
Ray Fiennes, he's so good in this. He's so
Oh
good.
my
And
god,
Jack O'Connell on a run between
yeah,
this and also just before he was in Sinner. I mean, he had
yeah,
20 years later in the NC, but before that he's Remick in Sinners. Just so good.
yeah,
Yeah, he's really compelling. And a character I thought I was absolutely going to just like not vibe with, even in the way that like I know you're a villain, but like sometimes I don't think you're like it really was turned off by the end of the last film. And but in a way that was like, okay, that's like such a huge swing. Like, I
yeah,
not that it's up to me, but like like if any filmmakers listening, like don't not take a big swing just because like I might not like, because that's so much better than being boring. And so it was like not it was it's incredible. I was just like, oh, I don't know. And then I feel like it works within the concept of the movie and everything that he's trying to do as a character and like why he would be doing that as a character. It's very compelling and then just looks so cool. So
yeah.
yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I mentioned I watched Sentimental Value, um, and I loved it. I thought it was phenomenal. It was very emotional to watch,
Mhm.
as you would imagine from the title. The acting was really great. I thought the writing was really good. Um, I don't have much more to say about it, without getting into like spoilers or anything.
We
But
can
it's
give
just
a little
like,
bit of the which is basically like Stellan
yeah,
Skarsgård and Renee Rensvig. They play father and daughter. He's a director, like a movie director. She is an actor. She's doing more like theater play. And then he's like, "What if we fix our like broken relationship by me casting you in a movie and we work together on a movie?" And she's like, "No, thank you." And so then he goes and hires Elle Fanning to be in the movie. And it's all sort of the untie of like, why did you want to try to fix that by doing this? Like what you
yeah,
like, and it's yeah.
it's very much like the specifics of the care. Like he's a classic like father figure who can only seem to sort of like emotionally connect through his art, and is otherwise so distant, right? And so like, it's like there's like so many specifics about the characters that are interesting and engaging, but I think the heart of it is just um essentially like a family that has gone through a lot of trauma and has really struggled emotionally with various things, and just being humans and existing in the various ways that they do. And I think another thing I really liked about this movie is that like nobody's really a villain. Like the father, for all of his faults, is not the villain of the movie. And I guess I won't go too much deeper than that, but like I keep expecting there to be like somebody who is like the bad person in the movie,
Mm.
and then they're all just kind of like doing their best. And I love films that are like that, and it really made me realize like, man, I kept meaning to watch Worst Person in the World. I really need to get on that now.
Yeah, you should watch it. I mean, it is different, but it is so good. Yeah, I love this movie. I made a joke. I was on this century in cinema, the movie I'm counting on the New York Times top 100 films, because Matt Huff came on, and Matt came on with me for Worst Person in the World this week, and a little while ago. He came on for After Sun this week, and I kept saying like I actually think maybe like I'm not telling everybody, but Sentimental Value might be my favorite movie of the year. But I keep having to like being a little bit of like a Hamnet defender because I feel like Hamnet, like people are like
Mm.
actually it's bad and you're stupid for liking it, and I'm being like no, actually it's the best film. But really, I think probably Sentimental Value might be my favorite film of the year because it's just exactly what I want, which is complicated characters being sad, like through art. I mean, that's a little bit of what Hamnet is too. But
I
yeah,
mean
so good.
that's exactly it. I watched Sentimental Value and I was like, aside from Sinners, which was transcendental for me, Sentimental Value is the movie I really loved this year. And then last night I put on Training,
Uh-huh.
and again I feel like I the marketing, the vibes for this movie are the kinds of things that like I've watched a lot of these of like slow, contemplative, like set in the 20s, like it's probably gonna
Mhm.
look pretty. It's gonna be really slow. There's one about a pig, there's one about a
Uh-huh.
like whatever. Like,
Uh-huh.
right, there's always just like it's
Mhm.
like I get it. And I was just gonna put it on because it was nominated. I was like, I'm just like it's only an hour 40, so this is a good time. This is good timing. And I put it on, and immediately I was greeted with the amazing voice of course, he's not here in the main cast, the narrator of this movie. What is his name?
Yeah,
Uh,
he's not the Fargo guy. Fargo guy. Or
No, Will Patton is
oh
the
yeah, Will
narrator
Patton.
of this, who has done a lot of narration for Stephen King books in the past, and so he
Right.
narrated Some Like It Darker. He's a phenomenal narrator,
Yeah.
and instantly I was like, oh, okay, I love this. Oh, it feels cozy just to hear this guy again. And he starts telling the story of the childhood of this character Robert, and I just instantly I was hooked, and I was hooked the whole way through for a slow movie that is just about a guy's life. It doesn't ever try to be anything more than that. And just kind of slowly, methodically moves through, gives various it doesn't linger too long in any one place. And those movies are usually not that captivating, um, but I was captivated the whole time, and it was beautifully shot. The performances were incredible. You do have like random William H Macy as Arn in
Yeah.
there. It was really really phenomenal. Um,
Yeah, you have
just
Paul
a,
Schneider. People would know him from Parks and Rec, Carrie Condon, Felicity
yep.
Jones. Yeah, it's a great cast. Yeah.
And I just loved this. It was so powerful, and it reminded me a little bit of like Life of Chuck, obviously,
Mhm.
in the ways that it's contemplating life. It reminded me a little bit of Perfect Days, the
It has
Japanese
very much
film.
Perfect Days vibes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which I love as well. It's another one of those movies that, like, despite being very slow and methodical, like, just so beautiful and compelling. And it reminded me a lot of a book called Stoner.
Oh, I
That
love
was
Stoner. Yeah.
yeah. It
Way
it
back, yeah.
gave I love Stoner too, and it gave me such stoner vibes. And so this just like really hit for me, and it just like has instantly become one of my favorite movies ever. And it's just like hard. It's hard in a year where I already love Sinners and I love Sentimental Value and I love all these other movies. Like this is maybe going to be one of my best movie years in a very long time. I loved this movie.
Yeah, Stoners by John Williams. I feel like if you ever see any TikTok that's like, these are the books you should start reading if you haven't really read books in a while, Stoner is like on there because it's like
Mhm.
basically like less than 150 pages or whatever. And
It's
it's
like this.
so
It
good.
was what written in the
Yeah, in the 50s, 60s, I
50s,
think. 60,
60s,
65, it says, yeah.
and was sort of like rediscovered
Yeah.
like in the last like 10 years or so, maybe 20, um, as like, hey, this was fine at the time. Like it was well received, I think, to a decent amount, but it like wasn't like a major classic or anything. But then people reading it like 60 years later are like, oh my God,
Yeah. Yeah.
this hits.
Um, Train Dreams just does this thing of like being about everything in a man's life, and like, but like, like individual moments are not like these, like, it's not like, it's not plot driven. It is like, it
Yeah.
is character driven. It is so good. I think my like letterbox review is like, this is a movie about the people you meet, love, and lose, like, over the course of your life. I'm not a Joel Edgerton, like, I don't love him. Notoriously, like Josh Wigler once called him the most boring man to ever be in a multiverse television show in Dark Matter, which I have to agree
I
with.
will say Dark Matter has, even though I liked the show, it does make it harder to watch Joel Edgerton as
He's
an
just
actor.
being a boring man who's every version of himself, and every version is just like a
Yeah.
slightly different version of himself. But Train Dreams is so beautiful, and just this, like, you just like sort of meander through his, meander is maybe even like a mean way, that sounds awful, but it's just, it is so good and so compelling to just watch these like moments of his life that are, I don't know, it's so good. I did get to see it in a theater, and I was really blown away by it, and have not rewatched it, but I probably will, just because I think it's so good. I think, really, like, we're talking about snubs, like William H. Macy not getting like a support. He's almost like too supporting to be you know how like not real supporting actors become
Yeah.
supporting, like the leads of the film are supporting actors. He's probably
He's
like,
actually a supporting actor. He
he's
blends right into, like,
so good.
William H. Macy's, he's great.
Yeah, that scene is so good. Yeah, I do really love it. It's I think quite a surprise that it got nominated for Best Picture, but I think incredibly well deserved. So highly recommend Training. It's so easy to watch too. It's on Netflix, so check it out.
Yeah. Although what I will say is, if what I've said so far has like intrigued you, if it's possible to find it in a theater,
Yeah, that's true, but it's
I
a
would.
yeah, it'd be tough, but
Yeah, it's probably not. Because there were a couple of moments, and I have a great setup.
yeah,
But there were a couple of moments where I was like, oh, I could see this really hitting in a theater. But
yeah,
it is what
yeah.
it is.
People called it, it's a little Terrence Malick-y, I think. I think that's
Yeah.
a fair description. Like, sort of, we're just like, we're in it. We're in the vibes. We're like, yeah.
Do you think this
Right.
could win cinematography? Because I feel like, based purely on the strength of the cinematography, I think it should have a shot. But I don't know if what the politics are.
Is Sinners up for best cinematography? I feel
I'm
like
sure
that's
it
like
is.
the only and then maybe One Ballot, but I feel like probably this would be more deserving than um okay, Train Dreams, Frankenstein, Sinners, One Ballot for Another, Marty Supreme. Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much people like love Frankenstein, I think, too. It does feel like it's
Mm.
probably Sinners, and then you could see it being Train Dreams or Frankenstein, depending on how people vote. But
I think
would,
if this were going to win anything, it would probably be cinematography. It would be my guess.
uh
It's not winning
s-
music or song.
sometimes people, yeah, that's gonna go to Golden, which actually also, that wasn't really released in theaters, but
And then
uh
adapted screenplay is kind of a loaded category.
yeah, who's they, Begonia, Frankenstein, One Ballot for Another is probably gonna win that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah,
So I think cinematography is its best hope.
agreed. That's a movie that, like, we were talking about earlier, in terms of like, none of the performance. I mean, like, William H. Macy. I think they're all like good performance, but none of them are like, that's the best performance I've ever seen, ever. But
Mhm.
it's such a good, just all around movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
One I'm interested for what the guy who, because he did Oh, he's the writer. He directed Sing Sing. Clint Bentley is the director. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's pretty much, obviously, the Traders. I will say the Traders UK. We talked about the celebrity version. Traders UK
Mhm.
season 4 um, is perhaps now my favorite season of Traders that I've seen personally. I thought it was phenomenal. I think the
The
UK
Celebrity
just knows how
Traders,
to do Traders. No, the
the new
actual
one.
season 4. I loved Celebrity. I think I might love the season 4 even more. I think that the UK
Yeah.
just knows how to do Traders, and I highly recommend it if you are of any interest in the Traders. Check out the UK seasons. I haven't even seen the first 3. I've just seen Celebrity in season 4, and I loved both of them a lot.
Okay, fun. Yeah, no, I think, well, there's very much I always felt like season 1 of the UK one felt very Shakespearean, where these are people who don't really play these like backstabby games, and so like things, even not even like the murders will happen, like secrets will have be revealed, and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe, and it's like
Mhm.
very enticing in a way that I feel bad for them, because I'm sure that's like not fun for your like own personal anxiety and stress to play the game that way, but I did find it really enticing.
Yeah.
Well, not just because the one only Rob Cesternino, was on the show and is now not on the show. I was finding the season to be of the UK or the US version to be much more like personal and like not fun in a way that
Yeah.
that it has been. And I felt like
Between
even this week,
casting and the way that they edit their show, it's just
yeah,
so
it's like not fun. And like this week, I thought we were like
way less fun.
we were a little back to it, and then they're like releasing statements, which is like good. They should release these statements online, but boy, a little rough. I've the only other thing I feel like I watched a bunch. I watched some movies. I'm just trying to get through all the Oscar, and also I'm a voting person for Galeka, the a queer writers association. So for our awards, I'm trying to watch everything that got nominated. But I got to go to the Taskmaster live show in Philadelphia, which was like so fun and amazing. I feel bad that I know a lot of people could not get tickets to it, but they really just nailed it. They just did like a live version. They did a Q&A, and then the end of the Q&A, they would bring people up on, like, they did tasks to bring 3 fans up on the audience from the audience, and then they brought in 2 celebrity comedians. Ours were previous contestants Paul Chowdhury and then Chris Gethard, a local Philly comedian who people might know. I know one of the New York shows was John Oliver and Seth Meyers were the 2 comedians, and then they would go backstage during the intermission, and then they'd come back out and they'd play a full episode of Taskmaster. It was so good. I'm hoping they come back. I did also get to interview Alex and Greg before the show, and that was a pretty delightful. They teased it, like I asked them, like, would you ever want to do an American version again? And they were like, we'd only do it if like we do it our way. But like, so Alex and Greg are the hosts, and we would do 5 American comedians, and it does seem like that maybe even be something that's out there. And then I asked them about other formats they would do, and they're like, hold on. And so they said, like, sorry, we can't tell you anything right now, but like something is coming. So that was pretty fun. I got to like tease. I feel like a better journalist than me would have been like, you could just tell me, but I couldn't get it out of them. So something else is coming apparently, which I don't think is an American version, but will be something sort of a spin off it. So yeah, just so fun. The show was so fun. And if you never watched Taskmaster, you got to go check it out. Kumail Nanjiani is going to be on the next season of the show.
Yeah.
And Ian, the writer of Veep, Armando Iannucci, his name. He's going to be on the show as well.
He's going to be on it.
Yeah, I know, it's like a huge get for them. Yeah, Armando Iannucci is going to be. I think just like an A in his name instead of the. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's just going to be on the next season of the show. Yeah, so very exciting, along with like other people that will soon become my favorite human beings in the world. So yeah, such a delight.
All right. Okay. Anything else then, Grace?
No, nothing else that I mean, yeah, check out that work on Parade. I interviewed Vic McCallis and Alex and Greg, and then I'm writing on Popeyes as well. So yeah, social media at High from Grace.
Well, if you are watching this on Monday, on January 26th, then or whenever you're watching / listening to this, Stephen Fishback's book Escape is coming out on the 27th. I have read it, and I think it's great. I genuinely thought it was very fun.
I've also read it. I thought it was great. It was so great.
There you go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So check it out. You can, of course, check out my book, Behind the Mirror, as well. It's about Big Brother. I will say I finished The Strength of the Few, which was the sequel to The Will of the Many, in James Islington's Hierarchy series, which is one of the, I think, bigger fantasy series coming out right now in the epic fantasy world. And very small review is that I preferred the first book. I think that the second book it's going for something quite ambitious, and I'm not quite sure that it managed to cover all of its angles in the depth that it needed to. But it was still very good. So there's my short review of The Strength of the Few. And other than that, yeah, check out the Patreon, my Patreon, where I'm watching all kinds of fun shows like The Traders, Jetlag, The Genius, and others. How about you, Grace?
I feel like I did my plugs right. I guess the other thing would be like, as we as sort of on the alternate weeks, and we could even do these like could be bonus episodes even the weeks that Taran and I get together. What shows do you want deeper dives on? I feel like there are some shows that are more conducive to it and shows that are not as conducive to it. So I'd be interested to hear what people want to hear more of in sort of spoilery detail in that old sort of post show recap style way of spending about an hour dissecting an episode or a batch of episodes about something.
What I will say is I feel like I need to do a sweep of like the best anime shows from the
Mm.
last couple of years because I keep getting occasionally recommended one here and there, and I'm like, man, I completely missed that. You know, I'd been on top of Freerun, which I'm very I think just actually started its second season. It's some weird
Yeah,
second anime.
someone just was recommended that to me. I was like, you should watch Free.
I would recommend Freerun, but there are I think a couple others that I've missed. So that's something that I'm looking into. I think in the coming weeks slash months. I'm actually officially reading through One Piece now.
Oh wow, reading through.
I'm reading through it because I couldn't do it. Well, now that I've read through some of it, I'm like, okay, I could
You
probably
watch
watch
it.
the episodes now.
Uh, you don't get a lot,
yeah.
a fair amount of like not enough to like really bump it up the rankings. But when we did the call out for people to vote on the top 10 of the year, Dan got a number of votes.
It was a very good season one. I did start season two. I have not started it myself yet, but Dan very popular right now as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's what we have for you then. Thank you all so much for joining us here this week on the Tastemakers, and we will see all of you next time.